Hey guys, Mr. Middleton here. We are going over the Unit 1B review. I'm going to go through some problems. You can follow along in order to get a little bit of preparation for our test tomorrow. So, first problem, we have the absolute value of 4x minus 7 equals 29. Remember, with absolute value problems, we need to get the absolute value by itself first. So I'll add 7 to both sides. I'm going to write it here so I have some space. I have the absolute value of 4x equals 36. Okay, from here, now that I have the absolute value isolated, I'm going to split my problem to 4x equals negative 36 and 4x equals positive 36. Divide both of these equations by 4 to get x by itself. Then I get my two solutions. X can equal negative 9 or x can equal positive 9. Okay. Number 2 is a proportion. Remember, proportions is important to group the expressions in the numerator or denominator. Okay. So we do that, and we cross multiply to solve. So we have 6 times 4x minus 5 equals 9 times 3x minus 4. Distribute, so I have 24x minus 30 equals 27x minus 36. Okay, I'm going to get the x's on the same side. I'm going to subtract 24x from both sides. Okay, and then I'm going to get the numbers away from it, so I'm going to add 36 to both sides. You can make this two separate steps, but for the sake of space, I'm going to make it one. So here, 6 equals 3x. Divide by 3, and we find that x is 2. Okay. Alright, another absolute value problem here for number 3. Again, our first step will be to subtract 5 from both sides, trying to get the absolute value by itself. So we're left with 2 times the absolute value of x plus 1 equals negative 2. From there, we will divide by 2. And then we're left with the absolute value of x plus 1 equals negative 1. Okay, remember, an absolute value cannot equal a negative number. Okay, and so we'd have to say there's no solution here. Okay. Really quick, notice the difference between 1 and 3. That didn't work out for me. In number 1, we had the absolute value equals a positive number, and then we dropped the absolute value to make it equal to a negative number and solve for the negative and positive. Here, we had the absolute value equal to a negative number. So once the absolute values are still here, there's no negative number that's allowed. If there's a negative number, that's when there's no solution. Alright, moving on to number 4, another absolute value problem. Okay. It's written a little bit differently, but notice that this 2 is adding to the absolute value. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Remember that I cannot combine that 2 and that 4 there. So I have 4 times the absolute value of 2x minus 3 equals 12. From there, I will divide both sides by 4 to get the absolute value all the way by itself. I'm going to write that up here. Absolute value of 2x minus 3 will equal 3. Okay, it's a positive number, so I can split my equation. 2x minus 3 equals negative 3, and 2x minus 3 equals 3. Make sure that this is all in this frame. It is. So now we solve both problems. I add 3 to both sides here. 2x will equal 0. Divide by 2, x equals 0. Same thing over here. Add 3 to both sides. 2x will equal 6. Divide by 2, x equals 3. So my two solutions, x equals 3 and 0. Number 5 is another proportion. Okay, again, I'm going to make sure I put that together so when I cross multiply, I do that correctly. 3 times 3x gives us 9x equals 4 times 2x minus 2. So 9x equals 8x minus 8. Subtract 8x from both sides. and then x will equal negative 8. Number 6, the directions for this problem, since they're off the screen, says to solve for x. That's this whole section. So we want to try to get x by itself. Our question is, what's stopping x from being by itself? Multiple ways to go through this problem. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 3. Okay, because I see that 3 is dividing on this side. So I'm going to multiply by 3 first, get rid of that fraction, make this problem a lot more palatable. Okay. Now, what's stopping x from being by itself? The 2 and the y, they're both multiplying, so in order to get rid of them, we divide. Cross out. We're left with x equals 3m over 2y. Number 7, proportion. I'll make sure that I pair these together, or group those together, so that when I cross multiply I do it correctly. So I have 9 times 2x minus 3 equals 6 times 3x plus 1. Distribute here. 18x minus 27 equals 18x plus 6. I'll subtract 18x from both sides. When I do that, I'm left with negative 27 equals 6. Notice that negative 27 doesn't equal 6. We don't have any more variables left, and this is just an untrue statement. So here is an example of a no solution problem. Okay, remember that when we have equations with variables on both sides, we could have no solutions or infinitely many solutions. Number 8, solving for x. Our first step for this problem will be to add by to both sides, because we're trying to get x by itself. And so we're left with ax equals c plus by on the right. And then to get x all the way by itself, we'll divide by a. So x will equal c plus by all over a. Notice that we have to divide the whole thing by a, not just c, not just by. It's all divided by a. Number 9, we have 4x minus 7 equals y plus 2. Now again, our directions are to solve for x, but notice that we have multiple variables here, so it's not going to be a nice pretty answer like you might have got for number 5, but we can still solve for x or isolate x. So we're going to add 7 to both sides first. 4x equals y plus 9. And then to get x all the way by itself, we'll divide by 4. And so our final answer should be x equals y plus 9 over 4. Okay, remember that the thought process you can go through is, what am I trying to get by itself? What's stopping it from being by itself? What operation is it doing? What's the opposite of that operation? You can continue asking yourself that line of questioning until your problem is solved. Number 10, we have 8 minus 3 times the absolute value of 4x plus 1 equals negative 13. Our first step for this problem should be to subtract 8 from both sides. We'll be left with negative 3 times the absolute value of 4x plus 1 equals negative 21. From there, we'll divide both sides of the equation by negative 3. Okay, trying to get that absolute value by itself. I'm going to write that up here. And so we have gotten it by itself. We have absolute value of 4x plus 1 equals, in this case, it's going to be positive 7. Positive 7. Okay, so it's positive 7, so we can split and solve this problem. So 4x plus 1 equals 7. 4x plus 1 equals negative 7. All right, subtract 1 from both sides. 4x equals 6. Divide by 4. X should equal 6/4, or simplified, 3 over 2. Okay. On the other side, subtract 1 from both sides, we get 4x equals negative 8. Divide by 4, x equals negative 2. So our two solutions, 3/2 and negative 2.